the Butler Bugle. What's on there?
About the
Very important project.
From Erie Zone Government Access, Channel 9, from the City Hall Council Chambers, it's time once again for the Taxpayers Hotline Show. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host.
Ah, there we are, John. It's City Controller Kaz Kwiatkowski and my good friend and sidekick.
I'm John Steiner with Mecca and the Perry 200.
Well, John, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Always fun to be here, Kaz.
I'm getting a lot of reports on you outside in the community.
Oh, I didn't do it. I didn't do anything wrong, did I?
Well, you keep getting good reviews, I'm going to kick you off. I'm just, no,
Yes, you're irreplaceable. I keep telling
no,
you.
you're doing good, really. I mean,
Telling you are irreplaceable.
no, I appreciate having someone to talk to once in a while.
I called your office today. They said that you might not be here today, that you were at an important meeting today.
Yeah, we did. We had a rather 3-hour meeting, but we luckily we got it done in time.
Well, that's good. That's good. Hopefully,
Never a dull moment at City Hall.
absolutely not. Days, you know, when is your term is coming up pretty soon, isn't it?
Yeah, at the end of December.
Well, you better get things straightened up before you go. After
I know I have to. So how you been? Good?
Doing good, doing good. Just working on some projects out in the community. Hopefully going to make some announcements here publicly regarding some things that are exciting that are going on with Mecca.
Hey, first phone call.
Answer.
Let's see.
Here we go.
Go ahead, caller.
I want to work on a project.
What project do you want? You want a grant?
Work on Destination Erie.
You want a grant?
Well, they're getting a grant. Destination Erie wants everything to be done, but they're not working with their own money. They're getting $2,400,000 for a planning session. They're going to get $700,000, and they want to bring business to the Bayfront. They claim that the Bayfront is a jewel. Well, it is a jewel. It'd be wonderful. Let's get something down there that pays taxes, though.
What kind of business they want to bring down there?
That's a good problem. They're looking for probably non-taxable businesses. You got the convention center, you got the Sheridan, you got the Blasco, you got the Niagara, all those places down there. How much money do they put on the table for me, the taxpayer?
Here's what we need. All the things you mentioned are draws, okay?
They're draws.
But
they're not. They may be a draw, but they're not drawing my tax dollars.
well, here's what I saw down in Baltimore. Just got back from the Inner Harbor about.
You saw a harbor that's dying.
Where?
In Baltimore.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing, though, John. Even at the Inner Harbor.
A disease, Yabut.
Huh?
I thought Yabut was a disease.
Yeah, but yeah.
It was a disease.
What do you mean it's dying down there?
It is dying. Is there aquarium going good?
Oh yeah, look, John. I walked in there. First of all, we had to wait for 2.5 hours, and I had my 2 grandkids. We had to walk around Baltimore Harbor for 2.5 hours, trying to keep them occupied. Now everyone was booked, and that was a weekend. Now, I don't know how it is during the week, but that's typical of tourism. All the restaurants, I'll tell you this, John. I went to each one of them, and we finally found one that had a 45-minute wait. And I mean, here's the thing: if that's what we kind of want to see in Erie, not on that big scale, but if you're going to come down and see Niagara, and people are going to come down and look at this stuff, and even when they go to the conventions, they want someplace to go, and I think
I grant it.
This is where we got to have tax-paying businesses like. And I'm not going to, I've been to the Navy Pier and those places, a peanut shop, an ice cream place, a little restaurant, a stand, whatever.
I agree with you.
Tax-paying people,
What you need is a mixed-use development down there.
But I'm looking for people to come in and use their own money as the entrepreneurs, not looking for tax write-offs.
Well, I think if we do it right and we open it up, I think you'll be.
What Destination Erie is all about? It's about John Elliott, Brennan, and they're trying to steer the GAF property. We're going to get non-taxable entities down there. Mark my words.
Well, I think they too are pushing for a mixed-use facility down there with commercial, residential, and just something to bring the taxpayers and people with money down to the Bayfront. And I know for a fact that anything that they put down there, they want on the tax rolls. That is one of.
I remember a councilman saying the same thing about the Kohler project.
Okay.
And we got stuck with that. I remember a councilman and an authority talking about the mercantile building, and we got stuck with that.
Well,
Remember the juice plant, and we got stuck with that. I remember the townhouses on Peach Street. We're going to get stuck with that. I remember the Gannon Incubator. They're going to bring all these businesses in. We had people on there from the Gannon Incubator. They couldn't tell me what their salaries were. They could not tell me what businesses they brought into the city. Who are they kidding?
Well, here's what I learned when I was a young man. When they tore down half of Erie during the Great Model City program, you remember that?
Yes.
What they didn't plan on was the people that they basically booted out of their businesses.
They went out of town and opened businesses.
Well, some of them, like Mr. Plakos, had to find other locations because the ones that they wanted to build for them were either way beyond their economic means, or it wasn't quite what they wanted. And I would hope this time around that people would, start contacting local businessmen and finding out. Do some surveys out there. Find out, like, who would want to put a place there.
Yeah, the planning commission give us the 12th Street corridor and all that.
Maybe,
what did that end up in?
maybe you can get a Sarah's restaurant down there or something. Who knows?
Well, you need a group of restaurants, and then you have offices. And I mean, the waterfront is a lot different than
Just so they
Peach
don't.
Street.
They can't limit it though.
Right. Well, you have to have community access.
I mean, I'm disappointed. In fact, we were talking the other day about how you cannot. Public access around the convention center at night is restricted. That's not the way it was first envisioned.
It's going to be a gated, it's going to be a
If you want to go fish there at night, you can't fish. If you're a decent person, law-abiding, you have a grandkid with you or something, people are going to say, well, you want to fish at 3 in the morning. But that's your business.
If certain people have their way with what...
It's going to be a gated community down there.
If certain people have their way with what they want down there, then... yeah, you're probably right about that. That's why we need people on council and some of our elected officials to start working together.
Talking about council, there's a good thing there. You got David Brennan working for the Redevelopment Authority. What's he doing going out into Elby and all these various places? What's he going to be doing going to this meeting tomorrow night? Who's he representing? John Elliott, or is he representing the city councilman? If he's representing the city councilman, he better get out. He better resign if he wants to work for John Elliott. He should be replaced on city council. We do not need him. We need someone who will work for the citizens and not John Elliott and tip programs, etc. I have a question for you, Kaz.
Go ahead.
How many assigned vehicles, other than for emergency, police and fire, are going out of town or assigned out nightly, other than the mayor?
I could try to get that number. I used to have the old number, but it's hard to it's easy to track except for probably the police department. That would be the tough one.
That is understandable.
Yeah.
They are on 24-hour call. I'm talking about the mayor's at-large employees.
I could find you that number. There's a lot of them because some assigned that people don't take home, but I will get you that number. Okay.
And with the people who are using their own vehicles. And the city being charged mileage. Could you have a tracking of that?
I haven't seen anybody, except for business purposes, I haven't seen anybody do that. Because if they do, they're going to get a 1099.
Well, that's good. But
yeah.
I know they have to file their 1099 if a vehicle is assigned to them.
Yeah, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I can't think of anybody that's...
Now, the fire chief and the police chief and the mayor, their vehicles are assigned to them, so they should be getting a 1099. Personally assigned vehicles.
But I can tell you that nobody outside of when they go on a trip, off the top of my head, can I remember anybody taking mileage.
Well, the mileage today, I think it said 57 cents.
It's about that. It's like 55 or 50, somewhere between 55 and 57 right now.
Okay, I'm going to sit back here a little bit and dig up some more of my thoughts and whatever. And, you know, before we had all that property in the waterfront, we had St. George's Sand and Gravel, we had Erie Concrete, we had the grain elevator, we had the ore boats, we had pulpwood boats, we had coal boats. That was a great industry, and they all paid taxes. Now, this stuff they want to do with this inland port will be all tax-free. We, the taxpayers, are getting sick of this.
Well, yeah, let's hope it'll be interesting what happens in Pittsburgh with the...
It'll be interesting what happens in May.
Well, I mean, the lawsuit, though, that's going on in Pittsburgh is going to have...
Talking about the one about the nonprofits being able to decide if they should be a nonprofit?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just wonderful. Give it to the politicians.
I seem to remember...
Let the judges, at least, they're more fair than the politicians. They just want people to grease their pockets like K Street.
You've been around a little bit. Wasn't there a time when we did beat them on a lawsuit and something happened?
Yes, there were.
What was it? I remember we won, but somehow we lost afterwards?
I don't recall right offhand, but there was one that said they were not a nonprofit, and I think the city backed off because they'd have to spend more money if they had the nonprofit was appealing it.
Yeah, because there was somebody. I remember in return, then we got like free health care for police officers or something, or like free gym.
It was there, but
free workouts or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think Joyce backed off.
Yeah, they were offering some things to the community at large.
They were offering the community a wiener, and they were taking the ham.
Like a like a fireman got hurt on a job, they were going to do something. And
yes. Okay, I'll get off. Maybe I enthuse some of the callers out there with a little blood pressure. We'll talk to you later.
What's happening with the nonprofit thing is that some of the universities and some of the hospitals are pushing the legislators for, the legislative branch to take over instead of the courts, because some of the certain communities are fighting it. We'll talk about that.
Well, you can't blame them, though.
Right.
Go ahead, caller.
Hey, Kaz.
Yes.
Hey, I got a comment to make. That John that calls in, I watched your program when Jim Thompson had it way back then.
Yeah.
This guy, he gets on every week, and we got to listen to his complaints, and he knows everything. I don't know if he's married, and I feel sorry for his wife. That's all he does is complain about everything. And, I can't stand watching this show because of that guy.
Well, now you got your form, so you can give us some. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir, go ahead.
I think he hung up.
Oh, I hope not.
It's guys like, John, that there's times when the show is, not a lot of people are calling, people are busy.
It's starting to pick up now, though.
Yeah, it is.
If it starts picking up, we're going to have to probably...
Cut their time short.
Yeah.
I think he does offer some things to the show. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion, whether some people like it or not, or agree with it or not. I mean, I don't agree with everything he says. But that's what this show is for guys like him.
I went over the old tapes, and I was amazed that, we always had the same, everybody always had somebody that called up.
Right.
But, there was always, and...
I remember when he was talking about Jimmy Thompson. I mean, I was a lot younger. But when Jimmy and Ian Murray used to be on this show, boy, they used to get fired up back in the casino.
Sometimes, yeah.
When they had the casino talk.
That was a bad... Go ahead, caller.
I want to just say, John can be on there as much as he wants, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I try to make the show, like I said, anybody's allowed their opinion, and that's what we want,
Because he's very informative. He's up to date on everything. If this guy doesn't like John, all he's got to do is take that little knob and turn the television or turn the channel. That's all he's got to do.
Well, what I like to do is I try to keep the show open to everybody. Any comments, as long as you, like you say, keep them in good taste and,
I want to...
Go ahead.
Complain about something that John's been complaining about is the cutout by CVS, 38th and Pine.
Oh, yeah, that's always been a bad one.
Right by the crosswalk.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep, I go by there every day.
Go, John. Okay, that's all I want want to say.
That is a bad, that intersection needs to be looked at from a lot of different, they need, to look at some turning lanes up there, and, do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I travel that thing.
I've been trying to get through to the traffic engineer that I think if we get some pressure, maybe that state has to order that because that's their
Routing.
intersection. But anybody that's been up there, he's right about everything up there. The whole interchange needs to be relooked at.
Okay, that's all I have to say.
Hey, thank you for your comments.
Go, John.
Like, you talk about John, I mean, like, some people, they don't want to hear him, but somehow he does have a lot of information. Sometimes I wonder where he gets some of his information.
He's been right a lot of times.
Yeah. I mean,
When you look into it.
right.
Go ahead, caller.
Hello?
Yes. You got to turn your TV down a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because there's a delay on there.
There, how's that?
Yeah, because we have a delay, and if you're listening to that, you're going to be...
I just turned it off.
Thank you.
I'm a John fan. I just wanted to say I find out more things about what goes on in this city. I'm 74-year-old, and I'm amazed at how much this John knows and how he can remember things even before I was here. So I think he's a watchdog.
Yep, we have a lot of great people out there calling this show, and what I always hear about on the weekends when I'm walking around or when I'm around town, people are, have a lot of comments. And I think for the most part, this is your show. It's not me. I kind of just sit here and moderate it.
I mean, personally, I think that more people need to be like John. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is because when it comes time for people to vote, okay, they need to be educated on the issues, the candidates, and where they stand on different positions, and what exactly is going on in our city. Too many people that come to the polls really don't know the issues of why they're voting for a certain person, and some people vote for people for different, like, ethnicity or different reasons other than what actual issues do they stand for, or what are they promoting, or how are they going to benefit the taxpayers of this city. And if people were educated half as much as John has educated himself as what's going on in this city, we would all benefit as a community as a whole.
Look what happened in Mill Creek. I mean, when a few people got active, and I tell people all the time that you have to take back government. Government is a reflection of what you allow it to be. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that, ma'am?
Yes, and I really enjoy listening to John. I hope he listens to people that do appreciate him, and not so much to the people, the negative callers.
Well, he gets fired up, but you know what? He brings a lot of relevant points, and sometimes, I've argued the same points from this side, and if more people would speak out, the elected officials would hear that, because what they see is 2 or 3 people complaining, and that's not enough. You have to really get involved.
Well, there's a lot of people who actually, since I've been helping you host this show, there are a lot of people, more than I thought, that actually watch this show.
Well, they do. They won't call, though.
But they won't call.
No.
They won't call. And, John may seem to be opinionated, and sometimes he's right and sometimes he's wrong, but at least he's not afraid to educate himself on the issues and put himself out there to be heard, whether people agree with him or disagree. So.
Well, hey, folks, that's all I had to say.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you. You sound very young.
Thank you. Bye now.
She doesn't sound 70.
No.
34, 24.
People today are a lot different.
Yeah, senior citizens there's 3
they're-
different levels of senior citizens anymore.
That's true.
There is. But John brought up the Destination Erie thing. Okay, there is a public I don't know if it's a public meeting, but an information thing tomorrow night at 7 o'clock down at the Blasco Library in the Hurd Auditorium. If a lot of people aren't familiar with what Destination Erie, what the goal is, they're creating a plan. We'll get into that.
Hang on, we'll have you right back with that. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, did you ever find out the Sheridan Bayfront pays taxes? Thank you.
Oop.
Does the Sheraton pay taxes?
Jeez, I gotta admit, I forgot.
I think you were somebody called about that when you were off that.
I thought they did, but you know what? We'll get them a definite answer because hopefully, yeah, the treasurer's in today. I'll go talk to her.
All right.
We'll find out.
Well, I remember they used tax money to help build that.
Yeah, and they also get, indirectly, I think they're subsidized by that room tax.
Right.
Well, at least the bonds are that.
Yeah, because they were,
What people don't understand, they built the building and then they found somebody to manage it.
right, because wasn't there a big court battle over that? Was there a
Oh, yeah.
court fight over that? Yeah, that's right.
Nick Scott versus the Convention Bureau.
Oh, that's right. They just settled that too.
Yeah, nothing.
I mean, we got to start working together.
Well, I think that's a problem. I've said for years, I don't know if it's perfect, but I go a lot to the Lehigh Valley. And everything down there is Lehigh Valley Airport, Lehigh Valley Transportation.
Right.
Seems like we spend more time fighting one another up here.
Well, I remember when I ran for office, I was talking to different elected officials, and I said, hey, why don't the mayor and the county executive, and why don't you guys and some of the other people, why don't you guys all have your offices at the courthouse so that at least you guys could like run in together to compare notes and maybe talk about some ideas. Well, that didn't go over very well.
Well, no,
That did not go over very well.
I tell you, I had amazing renaissance when I was working on this tax committee that, we had to find one tax collector for every county.
Right.
And we had to work together. We were forced to.
Right.
It was a rather pleasant experience.
Right.
People like Mr. Henderson from Franklin Township.
Dave Henderson, good.
Dave, I mean, the poor guy, he had urban areas, rural areas. Everybody's got their own little perspective of their portion of the county, and that's what makes it difficult.
Right, and that's with the Destination Erie thing. That's what they're trying to do. It's not just a city thing. It is a county. Not only county, but Venango County, Crawford County, Clarion counties. Everybody is trying to come together and put together a plan similar to the Rotoval plan that had a lot of good ideas in it way back when. That's part of the Perry 200 celebration. It's going to take a couple years to put this together, but I know that they're going out into all these different communities to try to get different people involved with decision making and planning, and in order to develop this plan that the city can use going forward. Now, they're having a meeting tomorrow night to discuss some of it. They're still, I think, in the planning stages of it. From 7 to 9 down at the library, the law firm, they developed the Baltimore Harbor that you guys were talking about. They were one of the developers on that, and they had developed some other things as well. So,
Baltimore Harbor's a nice idea, but I mean, yeah, absolutely, the Niagara is tax exempt.
right.
It's a state facility.
Well, the thing is we have, on our waterfront has to be our most taxed property, in my opinion. We have, I do like the library where it's at, but where that disaster is out where they were coming in with the boats from Canada, that building down there.
The one that never was used.
Yeah, when they fixed the wall and the wall fell back into the water. I mean, that down there is the biggest waste of money.
And there's a huge tract of land back there.
Oh, and where the grain elevators used to sit, that property's been vacant. I don't even know do you know who owns that by any chance?
I thought I heard Nick Scott, but I might be wrong.
Well, I mean, if they
He owns something near there that...
They need hotels or condos and restaurants. We need things down at the bayfront to attract people down to our community that pay taxes.
I agree with you. Now, uptown here is going to be whatever you envision it. Business, bars.
The problem with the downtown, everybody, I attended a downtown conference they had here for the whole state of Pennsylvania. All the economic development leaders came to Erie.
They like the water.
They like the water, and they were all talking mixed use, but there's one problem nowadays that makes mixed use in buildings like ours almost impossible. You have to have elevators for the handicap. They have to be handicap accessible. That means elevators. And it's just not cost effective to put elevators into our buildings downtown.
This is why I think you have to... What if you were to sit down with the voices of independence? And you designate... the plan that... I know David came under fire, but David's plan was, the commercial would be on the bottom floor. where you wouldn't need elevators.
Right.
And the top floors, maybe there's some kind of compromise you could come to in design or something. Yeah, I realize, see, because that's what's hurting downtown.
Right.
You got 2- and 3-story buildings that could be renovated and were when you and I were young and in college and different places that haven't been used in years because
It's not cost.
nobody's going to put an
Cost
elevator.
prohibited. You can't do it.
No, if you put an elevator in, you're only charging so much a month.
Yeah.
It ain't-
It wouldn't, I mean, the people that would live there, they couldn't afford to live there because a lot of them are Section 8 now.
This is why I think there's got to be some kind of compromise. There's got to be a way that, everybody's happy and,
I mean, even you guys are handicapped accessible right here in council. People can't see it on TV.
but we just did it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, caller.
That know-it-all guy again. There was a plan many years ago, GPU Energy. Now it's First Energy. They had a fantastic plan for boutiques, stores, and everything else. And I don't know where it went belly up, but it became into a lot of money.
Why did they do it?
Well, Larry Valentine was the head of the plan with General Public Utilities. This is before they tore down the Front Street station.
Ah, okay.
In fact, you probably see the plans laying around down there somewhere.
Either that or at the library, right?
Right. It was laid out. It was a beautiful plan. The whole thing.
You think anybody at GPU has that plan?
They might have. I'll have to look through my files. At one time I had it because I was on the committee. But it was a great plan. We didn't have places like the Sun Electronics up the street. We didn't have Niagara Pier involving with a 10-year alert, and as soon as the 10 years was out, the people sold, and they even sold their homes at a loss to get out of there.
But even with what you just said, John brought up a good point. Besides the GAF property, and I don't know who owns the one on the east side, there's a huge tract of land over there too.
Yes, there is. It's still there,
And part of it's owned by, I know I think the part in front of the power station.
That's known by Nick Scott.
Right, but I thought he owned the one on the backside too that was,
I think he owns what's next to the museum.
I think the one behind where the lighthouse and everything, or the old stack is, I think that's a county property.
how about the one where the school was and by the boat terminal?
Yeah, that would be right out on the edge of
You're
the.
talking east or west now?
Well, that's the east side of it's the east side of State Street, but it's,
It's right across from the Rum Runners, right there on that property.
yeah,
Right
across
where-
the water though.
John, right where the grain elevators used to be.
You're talking about Dick Litz's place?
The only thing they built back there was,
No,
He owns Junior's.
no, that's further
no,
up.
that's going west.
McAllister owns a property down there. I don't know who owns that.
No, here,
now.
go to the library, okay?
And head north.
And then head north past the Rotunda building there, and head back where the boat terminal was.
Right next to the,
Behind, there was like one little school built back there behind the
yeah,
museum.
they have like an alternative education program school back there, and then there's where the grain elevators used to be, there's like a blank or
Yeah,
an empty property.
You think
down
about
there.
those being developed.
I mean, that whole area back there, it's on the water. I mean, what's taken everybody so long to get businesses, residential, commercial?
I'll guarantee you there'd be a couple people that'd be willing to put,
Their own money into it.
oh yeah, a couple of restaurants would be, hey, tell me you wouldn't, seriously, I know it might be a little high priced. How many people wouldn't like to have a little fish dinner down there looking right over the waterfront?
Well, it'd be a tough time this week because all those gizzard shad died because of oxygen.
I heard.
No, you know that, but you take a place like Smugglers. All
It'd
right.
be wonderful. We used to
People
eat
love
down there all
Smugglers.
the time. Riders on the Bays, Tony's, all those places down there were always full.
People are, at the outside at the Sheridan, people sitting outside at Rum Runners. I mean, there's just so much opportunity down there. On the East Slip as well, as the Sheraton, but even across at the property that we're talking about with Nick Scott. I mean, if he developed, that could be a gold mine for somebody that develops that down there.
Restaurants up on the 4th or 5th floor, you see the best sunset in the world.
Absolutely. I mean, there's just so much potential. And the good thing about it is that it can all bring tax revenue into the city. We have to stop putting non-taxable entities
That's right. You're
on the
100%
waterfront,
right.
because that's our most taxable entities.
That's it. You got to have the tax. You have to have the revenue coming in to sustain what we have. And with all these nonprofits not doing their thing, it's hurting the taxpayer. It's hurting everybody else.
I will say I have heard the mayor say publicly that, you know, that's his idea, is what he wants to see. Of course, he's looking at it from our aspect, which is very important. We need more taxes in the city.
The revenue.
But we also need businesses that are going to make money.
Pensions are going up. Salaries are going up. Taxpayers are leaving Erie.
But we got to make more jobs, and how do you do that? You got to create business.
The way you're going to make jobs in the city of Erie, that has to pertain to tourism.
Right, and you know what? If that goes over, you know, I've been in other towns where you see what they call like little beach bars and tiki bars that are along the water. They have patios. Like, well, they had one at the old waterfront downtown.
You go up the road to Geneva on the lake, they have theirs for the summer, then they close down.
You know, I know some people agree or disagree, but if we would have had the hindsight to put the casino down at the old Hammer Mill property, I know there's
You're absolutely correct.
I know there's a lot of controversy this way, that way.
It would have been great.
It would not only would have brought the tax, we could have opened up, you know, different avenues. And I would willing to bet money that if that casino was there, there would have been a will, and we need some of our state legislators to start looking at this, because I'm tired of hearing this cannot happen.
The trouble is, there was too many bobbleheads where you're sitting now that nixed that deal.
There was 7-1. There was 6-1 was the vote,
yes.
with Ian Murray being the only one that voted yes. And he was a friend of mine, Jimmy Thompson. He voted no on that, which is a whole other story. But I'm not even going to go there. But
I remember it well.
What we need is some type of a road and access, a toll bridge from the east side of this city to the peninsula. And it will bring so much business, so many people will have to start traveling through the east side.
You know how many years that's been thought of?
Why hasn't it happened though? Why? I mean,
that went all the way back to when Julian Pulaski was working in the state.
Well, why not? I mean, I don't know. Do you know the answer, John? Or one of you guys know the answer?
No, it's been locked up in the negative lobbying from the other side about the effect on things. But basically, it was all about money.
That's an east side, west side deal there.
It's a Mill Creek deal. It's in Mill Creek.
That's correct. The west side businesses did not want that in.
There is so much traffic. They're talking about putting that Sheets out there on West 8th Street out there by the Sandbar.
Right.
And a friend of mine is the owner of the Sandbar, and he is concerned. He says that when he comes to work, they don't even try to come down Peninsula Drive because the traffic is so congested over there that he doesn't even try coming through there. If they were to open up an access from the east side, it may lighten up that traffic a little bit, not a lot. They'll still get the businesses, they'll still get the cars, and people that would come to the peninsula from the east side would probably actually, travel through the peninsula and come out into Mill Creek and use those businesses out there. I just don't understand why our legislators and some of our elected officials do not explore that opportunity. And now if it's a environmental thing, okay, tell us. I haven't heard an explanation in a while. Yeah, a drawbridge was what we need. Even if we had to pay, if people had to pay, 50 cents or whatever, a toll bridge, a drawbridge, some type of a bridge leading from the South Pier to the peninsula would bring in so much revenue to this city and the east side. It would be astounding.
Well, here's one. Ray Schreckengoss always wanted a ferry boat to Canada.
Yeah, I mean,
I think a ferry boat to the east peninsula would have meen made more sense.
If we'd have had the casino down there, we'd have riverboat gambling.
Had a South American one time.
I remember that one.
I'll hang up.
See, there's the whole thing now. That bridge, I remember that. And I'm trying to think of the woman legislator. That was her idea, to have a drawbridge. She had looked at it. Now, there are environmental issues, but they can work around anything they want.
Right.
Basically, come down to, it was politics.
It's politics, yeah, I know.
Go ahead, caller.
Huh?
You're on.
Okay. You know what? You're talking about when I was a young girl, they used to have the Canadiana come over from Canada.
Yeah, right.
On that boat for dancing. Does anybody remember that?
I do. You know, I looked it up one time on the internet.
Yeah.
I think didn't they change that name to the Ocarama too?
I don't remember that, but I remember us girls, we used to love to dance. We'd go to any of those dances around, you know.
I'm going to get you an answer, but here's what I think happened to the Canadiana.
Wait a minute, how the hell have I got this so loud? I don't know.
Pardon?
Trying to turn that down, I can't.
Oh, okay.
Hit the mute.
You okay now?
Yeah.
I'm going to find out for you. I looked it up once, and I believe the Canadiana became the Ocarama, and then it ended up, I think, in Scrap Heap in Buffalo.
I don't know, but I worked down there, for Tony. I was just a kid, about 17, 18 years old.
Regary?
Tony Regary.
Made about $20 a week.
That was a lot of money.
You know what, those perch fish sandwiches were 15 cents a piece. And boy, they used to go like mad.
I don't even think they offer the ferry over to the peninsula do they anymore? I don't, do they, was there a water taxi?
Yeah, there was a water taxi.
Okay.
Were they trying to talk about McAllister's?
No, nobody talked about it really.
We were talking about that part of the development a little bit, but what'd you have in mind?
I waited on them a lot. They were real nice. And then there was Grant's, or was it Nolan's?
Nolan's, yeah.
Nolan's was across from them. They were kind of competition, but they weren't real nasty.
You know, there's a lady here that was related to one of the, I call them they weren't really fighters. I think it was a lot of show. It was Mr. Gary and Mr. Nolan used to look like they were battling each other in the dock, and you'd come down there and they'd be, you couldn't get around it without getting approached by their people. Lake ride, you know. It was fun, wasn't it?
Trying to do. I think I got this right. They were trying to do what the Canadiana had done, but they weren't making it as good. You know, I don't know why it didn't go over real good.
That was a pretty big ship, the Canadiana.
It was a big ship, and they had real bands on there. You know, in those days we didn't have those 2-3 little piece accordion players. Big bands like we'd go out to the Rainbow Gardens for those big dances. I think they were about 75 cents.
Yeah,
that was a lot of money, though, in those days.
Yeah, it would be hard to have some type of a boating crew. I mean, between the price of gasoline and the customs laws, I mean, everything is just
right,
so
though. You know, I'm going to find out. If you listen next week, I'm going to tell you what happened to the Canadiana.
Okay, I remembered the name of it. There's a lot of things you could ask me about down there. My memory's pretty good on stuff.
Oh, I remember the big ships used to come into the dock, actually. And they take people on cruise.
We had a lot of big ships, and then they had the Coast Guard station down there. Remember that?
It's still there.
Is it?
Yeah, it's you can't get near it now because with 911, it's
What I'm talking about, like during the wartime, they had those young sailor kids.
Oh yeah, they're still there, but now if you try to get there, it's under Homeland Security. Now you can't get in there.
Well, these were young kids, maybe 19, 20 years old, they would come in there for their sandwiches and, you know, what have you.
Yep, there's still some nice, very young sailors over there.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, but, that brings back a lot of memory, 15-cent fish sandwiches.
15 cents, 35 cents for the lunch.
That's before my time.
Yeah, but you know what? You didn't make that much in those days, so that was, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, I made $20 a week, and if I got a 10-cent tip, I was lucky. You know, I'd get those big smiles. I get the 10 or 20 cents.
Some people are still tipping that way.
Kaz at the breakfast place.
No, I tip pretty good.
Oh, do you? You big tipper over there?
Yeah, and in cash too.
Nice.
The women weren't good tippers, but the men were.
Yeah, well, I think it has something to do with the way you young ladies approach us, you know.
Right.
With a big smile.
We're done. After that, we're done.
Suckers.
Yeah, you'll get 20% after that.
Easily.
Oh, Lordy. And then we had to walk to work, too. You didn't think anything of it because not too many people had cars.
No, a lot of people, well, the ones, if you could afford it, you took not taxis, you took the bus.
Took the bus, yeah. Or we would walk. I lived on Are you from Erie?
Yes.
Okay, I lived on 11th and Walnut, between Walnut and Chestnut. And I think nothing to walking to work. And, you know, we didn't have all these people. We had some trouble, but not like this nowadays. You know, you could walk around like in a...
Oh, my mother tells me she used to walk from what's then Little Italy all the way down to like Strong Vincent.
Yeah,
You know, no problem. You know, they walked everywhere. You know.
Went to St. Peter's School, but I only lived about 4 blocks from there. But to go to Strong Vincent, because Mom couldn't afford to send me to the villa. So, but we'd think nothing of walking out to Strong Vincent on those cold, brutal days, you know.
Yeah, nobody felt sorry for you then, right?
Not at all. Nobody had cars. Nobody had.
Yeah, my mother used to say it was like 2 scarf day or big mittens.
I think it was, because we lived on 11th there. There was a bus running, but it was only a nickel, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember. Yeah.
I remember when it was, I remember when it was pretty cheap, not that cheap, but.
And another thing, 11th and Popular was the Kuhneman's Bakery. They had the best stuff. You could smell that bakery 2-3 blocks before you got there. And there was a Bourne's ice cream parlor right next door. Okay?
Yeah, I remember.
That was one of my first jobs.
I remember that one.
And they didn't have many flavors, but when the guy brought in this here lemon sherbet, I tasted that and I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. That was so good.
There was one, Bourne's, and then there was Gem City. That was another one.
Well, that was up further, but...
Yeah, there was a lot of good... You know, we had a whole show one time about the bakeries and the ice cream places.
Yeah. Well, there was always one little grocery store on every block.
Yep.
Just about every block there was a little grocery store.
Well, you know what's nice about the bakeries? They all had like either an ethnic concept to them or something.
Yeah.
They all had a little specialty that one had good rye bread, one had good hard rolls, or...
Oh, yeah.
It was just, you know, everybody had their favorite bakery, but they're all gone now.
Well, some of them places I wouldn't go in. I won't name any of them. I wouldn't go in them places if it...
I miss the old ones, though. We don't have them no more.
I'll tell you where else I worked. I worked in the spa. Remember that place? It's the bank there in 12th and State.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had very good food in there. Very, very good.
What'd they call it? Ma'am, what was the name of that place again?
Spa, S-P-A.
Oh, yeah, the Spa Cafe.
And they were right on the corner where that bank is now.
I thought they were, yeah, you're right.
12th and State.
Yep, well, I called it Union Bank, but it's Mellon now.
And across the street was, what the hell was the name of that? It's a couple gamblers that run that place.
Didn't they have a spa have a big window in the front?
Yeah.
And he used to always have like a big roast beef or a ham in the window.
Now, they had all that food. You could get the sandwiches in there, 15 cents. It was roast beef,
That place is a
lamb, you name it.
That place drove me nuts. I wasn't 21. I couldn't go in there. And you had to, you know.
Well, I had turned 21, and I couldn't blame it. A couple of little soldier boys come in. They asked for a beer, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, you have to show me. And they said, well, we're old enough to be in the service. We're old enough to drink. And I agreed with them. You know, I said, I agree with you, but I can't serve you.
Oh, man. You know, well, I
mean, one myself, you know.
I don't want to admit that.
Serve, you know.
I don't want to admit it, but I did buy some drinks for underage soldiers once. Well, I was in the Army. I mean, we figured same logic they used on this lady.
I mean, if you're old enough to serve this country,
absolutely,
die for this country,
what are they going to do?
Throw us? Beer.
They weren't going to throw us in jail. They were going to send us over anyway. So.
Right.
But those were the good old days.
Yes, they were. Let's hope they come back a little bit.
I don't think so. It's an entirely different way of life.
Yeah, I do miss it though.
Hey, when you got to lock your doors in the daytime, I mean in the summertime, I have my shorts on, I've got my keys pinned to my shorts, and lock my doors to go in the backyard and cut the grass. Now that's awful, you know?
Yeah, but it's a sign of the times.
The way it is, you know? Hey, well, I'm going to let this go.
Hey, thanks for calling.
Sure. Bye-bye.
I love those old stories, I really do.
Well, you know, with the destination Erie thing, I mean, we need to get a plan and actually stick to this plan. And John had mentioned something about Dave Brennan being with John Elliott and that crew and having ideas on the GAF development site. I think it's important that we'll talk after this.
Go ahead, caller.
Yeah. You guys keep talking a bridge at the foot of East Avenue.
Right.
What about a tunnel?
I don't know if that would...
They put a tunnel through from England to France. Why couldn't we do a small one here?
Actually, this is not wild, but they talked about one going from the convention center to the hotel. You familiar with that?
Yeah.
Where they put that big overhead over? Yeah. They talked about that. They even talked about making it...
You're going to remember, you're talking a lot of bedrock down there.
Yeah, but their plan was... what they wanted to do was... they wanted to make it see-through so you could see like the sea life down there.
Yeah, to see the underwater life.
But from what I heard, it was a pretty expensive proposition.
Yeah, well, one thing about it, that was Erie sand and gravel. And everything that fell off the ships is still in the water down there.
Where at
the pier.
Yeah, the thing about building a tunnel, though, you got to build it pretty deep because the ocean ships are going to come through there.
Well,
so I don't know what the cost is.
Talking 30 feet down.
Yeah, I don't know what the cost is, and that'd be,
So go right down East Lake or East Avenue to the bottom, and keep ramping down. You'd be across.
It would be interesting to see how much it costs in Pittsburgh, and I forget what that little tunnel costs in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
The one that they built to the baseball stadium.
Yeah.
It was literally, oh God, it was mega millions.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know and that's pretty close to the distance we'd have to do here.
Well, you see what they're doing out on 12th Street now.
What's that?
They're going to resurface it. The state said that they're going to put from Green Garden all the way into French.
I wouldn't hold your breath though on seeing us get a tunnel though. I just while it's not a bad idea, I don't think it's going to happen though.
You never know what the state will do.
Yeah, right now they're not in a spending mode.
No.
And they're going to look at does the tunnel, like when you talk about Pittsburgh, that's a whole different
The
ballgame.
bridge over East Avenue. They've been talking about that for 10 years.
Oh yeah, it'll probably be another. Well, I think they'll get it done before that, but yeah, it's been a long time. It almost makes you wonder. Why when you had one there, it takes so long to redo another one, or to come up with any plan.
I mean, somebody's making money off of it.
I do know one thing: we need some down there because we're losing businesses on East Avenue like mad.
And I bet you if the McBride Viaduct would be fixed immediately, if that were to occur, and that would solve a lot of problems, not only for the east side but the city in general. And there's other ways to fund a program.
Well, we've lost banks, we've lost everything down here.
There's other ways to fund projects like that. In Chicago, what they're doing now is they're starting like public-private partnerships where they're investing, they're having private investors invest in government projects. And let's say if we had a public-private partnership going and we decided to build a drawbridge at the pier. We would charge a certain amount for the cars to go through, and the businesses would not only get their money back, but they would make a small, those that invested get a small return of interest on their investment, and the city could make their money back. There's all kinds, the city pension, you could use pension funds. They're using different avenues of revenue to subsidize some of their projects, which are going to get a for sure return of investment, which is drawing in investors from within their communities to make these projects happen. So not only do the taxpayers win, the city wins, and the investor wins.
Well, here's one on a real simple scale. I saw a story when I was flying to Chicago one time about Kentucky Fried Chicken. They took care of all the manhole cover problems in Chicago and only asked one thing.
What?
They had their little logo
Yeah.
emblazoned on there.
Right.
And I've seen these things that, like where, let's say Chick-fil-A, like, or anybody, or General Electric, anybody wanted to do it, kind of like the Adopt a Street program, where they'd say, you know, this stretch of highway sponsored by.
How about how about if they did that to bridges? Like whenever I drive over I-90.
Well, we name we name arenas after people.
Right. Why couldn't they sell the naming rights to anybody to advertise their business on a bridge?
I see no problem. What do we do at Erie Insurance Arena, right?
Right. I mean, that people would pay a lot of money to have their logo, all the major businesses.
We're doing it on the buses. Look at the buses.
Right. I mean, that's just another avenue. I mean, finally, the Civic Center Authority, they're wising up. And, now it's the Erie Insurance Arena. I mean, arenas and stadiums all around the country have had to do that in order to sustain, financial, success, I guess you could say. But why not name bridges or different things where the government and private business work together to bring in revenue to save us money and for them to make money? I mean, it's just getting to the point where people are coming in for corporate welfare, looking for handouts to build something in your community, and half the time it's not producing anything, and the taxpayers are losing money when we can all work together on a project we know is going to make money, where the city will get their money back, and some of the investors will get a return on their investment. I mean, it makes sense to me. I don't know.
I see no problem.
It's time to think out of the box. We need people that are going to start thinking out of the box, because our box is like getting smaller and smaller. GE, I mean, who knows how long they're going to be here. We need the growth chamber folks to be working with the Destination Erie folks, to be working with the Downtown Improvement District folks, to be working with John Elliott and that group, to start getting together a plan and working together and go out and get businesses to come into this community. Not go to trade shows and sit around and say, hey, look at here. We need investments. We have, what do we have here, Kaz, that people, we have water. Boy, we have a lot of water here. Offer that. Let me ask you this question.
You still there, caller?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
You guys took over.
Oh,
okay. Go ahead. You can finish up. We'll go on after you're done.
Yeah.
Oh, what I was trying to find out, you were talking earlier about the different places that have, you got the Port Authority that owns 90% of the lakefront.
Right.
Why?
Active legislature.
Not paying taxes, are they?
Not everywhere, no.
Not anywhere.
Well, they do have to pay. There was a little argument that's going on now about the, what do you call that thing down there?
I mean, they're renting property along our lakefront to people.
Park and ride.
Some of them are paying taxes.
I mean, all the,
The Port Authority doesn't, but if they sell the property, or like in the case of the, I'm trying to think of the bus terminal down there,
Intermodal?
The Intermodal Center. They're going through an argument down there about where there are profit-making segments in that building, they have to pay taxes. And they're trying to decide on the percentage of the building that's involved.
Well, you got to remember, too, that they got property where the Port Authority owns, the land,
right,
and leases the land. They're leasing land to Erie Sand and Gravel.
Yeah, I have to check on that. I know some of the properties are paying taxes.
Those were the old Ordocks.
Yep, somebody's paying taxes, not a lot of places, though.
And then we what makes me nervous is that we have people from the Port Authority who are not elected officials that are making decisions on what type of development we have going on down at the GAF site.
It should not be happening. We should get rid of them.
I know John will disagree with what I'm about to say, but I'm kind of glad that that Dave Brennan is involved with that economic development group with John Elliott and that crew, and that he has an idea of what should go on down there, or what could go on at the GAF site, where he could bring his architectural knowledge, I guess you could say, to this council up here, so that at least they are communicating as to what we need and what we should have. Him being the architect on council, he brings something to this table, whether people like who he works for, whether they don't like what he works for. At least he has an idea, he has some experience about what he's talking about, and we need people like him on this council, because there are people on the Port Authority that are trying to do a run around everybody, and they're supporting different people for different offices right now, but we won't talk about that, and to do a railroad around, an end run around everybody to get what they want down there. So hopefully, with people like Dave and the other members of this council and the other leaders in our city, we'll make sure that we get down there what's best for the entire community, not just those of a few people on the Port Authority.
Well, Dave's first plan, I mean, I saw Dave's plan, and nothing in there was really tax exempt, on the surface.
He doesn't have any, I've seen it too, it was in the paper a few times.
And he realized
And
that.
I asked him, yeah.
He realized you had to have some.
He knows you have to have
some residential. And
right. And that's the key to making it successful. You have to have a combination of each, and, that's
he
just
and I
down
agree
there.
on one thing. We don't want the ramp on that property.
Right.
We want the ramp on the convention center property.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, it's the
Build a high-rise ramp there. And
the view's already blocked with the Convention Center Authority, so why would you do that when you can put townhouses or other businesses over on the other side?
And just put a footbridge.
Exactly.
Go ahead, caller. You're still there, right?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Go ahead. We got about 3 more minutes.
Yeah, we're almost done, so they gave us the get off the air sign.
Giving you get it off the air, huh?
Yeah, give us your last take.
I'm gonna let you guys have the last 3 minutes.
Oh no, you can have it. Go ahead. We can.
No, I'm done.
Hey, thanks for calling.
All right.
See,
this is what I like. People are real concerned about this project.
Well, there's a lot of people, that is the future, of our city. Other than that, what developable property is there down there?
I think that's the key.
We screw that up. Look out.
Well, we come close to it already.
I know.
Go ahead, caller.
Hey, gentlemen.
Yes.
Hey, John. Some great ideas.
Thank you.
Ever working with the Voices for Independence, having some experience with them in the past, they're not going to bend, and it's a shame. Then the state gets dragged in, just dealing with ramps, handicap ramps. Then we're going to have to get into other things. The bridge from the South Pier over, northbound, I don't know if we'll ever see that. It'd be nice, don't get me wrong, but I think what we do have down there, what we're going to have to develop, obviously, is the old GAF, and they were talking about the McAllister place.
Right.
And don't forget, we got more land that Mr. Scott owns across from, behind McAllister.
And there's, next to the museum and, south of that whole area has so much potential. They need to do it right. They need to get it done, because we're just losing revenue by every year it passes by that we should be having for the city.
Hey, you got a convention. Where do they go after a convention?
They use restaurants, bars. They have that there at the Sheraton a little bit, but there's not a lot of
People want a
selection.
variety. They want to explore.
Well, I think the
Are
downtown...
you still there, caller?
Yeah, I would hope that the water would draw, people for condos or townhouses, because, look at 13th and Peach. It looks like you can't even give those away now. I don't know if it's the location, the price,
Right.
whatever, but...
Well, you have to bring people to live, downtown back into, people with disposable income back into the city. And, we have to start somewhere. I know those are a tough sell right now, but we got to stick with it, stay focused.
How cheap were those houses when they built them on Niagara Pier? They weren't cheap, right?
Some of the houses on 14th and Wallace, or 14th and Parade, they did that mixed, and I think there's still a for sale sign in the window.
But, the ones down at Niagara Pier, they sold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that, we have to deal with what we have as far as the GAF. Mr. Brennan, I'm sure, has some good ideas. And, whatever we have to, work with.
Let's not forget the Hair Mill property either.
Well, that's true. The casino would have been a great asset, but we can't cry over spilled milk on that one.
Right.
But, as far as, attracting new business, I think we better be more concerned about keeping the stuff that we have now.
And I agree with John, though. I think we need to go out there, instead of going to fancy conventions, let's start calling these places, the ones that, that do locate in cities, and say,
Our regional,
what would it take for you to come here to my town?
our regional, our growth and partnership folks, we shouldn't even see them in our community. They should be out bringing businesses here, and we shouldn't even see them unless it's a holiday. They should be out around this country, all around the world. There's some other businesses, we don't have time to talk about it because we have to get off the air, but maybe next time.
Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we need to, like you and I said, you run into, you go down and you talk to whatever corporation, Arby's, Darden, and say, hey, what would it take to come downtown? What do we have to give you?
Well, there's other cities that are smaller than ours. They're successful in bringing businesses there, but you have to go to them.
Oh, yeah.
You can't just go to a convention and say, look at us, we're here.
No, you actually got to call them on the phone and say,
You have to chase them.
I want you in my town, what does it take?
This will probably be the last call.
Yeah, you'll be the last one, caller.
Yeah, the smartest thing anybody said today.
What's that?
Build the bridge. The bridge is the key to Erie's future. If they're not looking at that with Destinations Erie, then we're not doing anything.
Which bridge are you talking about? The
To the peninsula?
across the peninsula?
Yes, right off the new Bayfront connector.
Yep, you know how long they've been, boy, I tell you, they've been talking about it since I've been a little.
I'm sick of it. I want it. I'm sick of hearing we can't, we shouldn't, we won't. But if we're not, why not?
The infrastructure wasn't there before, it's there now, do it.
Exactly. I want to know why we're not. If we're not going to do it, why is it?
Build a bridge, build a bridge, build a bridge.
I hear you.
Hey, see, they want it, and we can do it environmentally safe.
If it's environmentally safe and it'll bring revenue and bring the city and the east side back, what's the holdup?
Well, John, I want to thank you.
Thanks, no problem.
We got to get you to, we got to get your comments next week.
No, that's all right. That was pretty much what we talked about.
Really?
The Destination Erie stuff was the main stuff that I wanted to talk about.
You're welcome to be a guest anytime.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching the Taxpayers Hotline Show on Erie's own Government Access, Channel 9.